Today we have Jeev with us, who has become an accomplished ultra marathoner in a very short period of time, running fast 100 miler and then iconic races like Spartathlon, then Bob Graham round, and he has achieved some good times in those races. So he proved himself to be a high achiever in the trail running community. And besides all those big races, he also has run, several track races, 12-hour, 8-hour, and several 50-milers with good times on them. Then marathons in early days, in several places around the globe, being San Francisco, Lima, Marrakech, Lisbon, and so on. So, as said, Trail Talk host, today I have with me Anil Rao, and we both plan to enjoy some nice run talks with Jeev. So Jeev, welcome.
Thank you, guys.
Welcome,
Thank you,
Jeev.
VTY. Thank you, Anil Bhai. I mean, it's such an honor to come here. Obviously, I've heard the previous legends who have been part of this podcast, and I'm a big fan of you both, and also the other people in our Shades community, and have learned and have felt inspired by their exploits. So yeah, I think it's a big highlight of my running career to probably come here and talk about it. So yeah, I'm having a big sort of imposter syndrome kind of at the moment.
Thank you for being here, Jeev. Okay, Anil, you want to dive in on the first set of things that we plan?
Yeah, sure. Hey, Jeev, again, thanks for taking time from your Friday evening and talking to us on a short notice. Bipul, could you move on to the next one? Yeah. So one of the things which is pretty unique, like from what I've seen, when we start running longer and longer, uh, with most folks, what tends to happen is we just focus on running longer, and that itself becomes a satisfying part, the accomplishment of the distance itself. But from your bio, in a short time, what's unique is you try to introspect into the distances you run, starting from 80K, 50 miles, and improving your times on that, and then running a really fast 100 miler, 160K in your first 100 miler as well. So I wanted to take some time in understanding a little bit on what was your process of you know getting your time down from 12 hours to 8 hours. That's a pretty monumental task, 50% in a 50-mile, 80-kilometer distance. So what I wanted to understand was, what were some of the key changes you did in terms of training and then the actual execution, your lifestyle?
Yeah, sure. So when I did my 50 milers, before that, I think I did like a 65, 70-kilometer race over here in Lake District on some rough terrain as like my first ultra. So I really got hooked into it that, okay, this is the kind of distance I want to do. But commuting over here is a big thing from London. It takes like 5-6 hours, so you can't recce the routes and stuff like that. So I was looking for a race which is closer to London. And just so you know, I don't live in London at the moment. I have moved to the mountains permanently since last year, which is in Lake District. But near London, in the south of England, you have Seven Sisters, and one of the famous trail is South Downs Way 100. And there's a race as well. I think the overall trail is probably more than 100 mile, but the race is very famous and it's a very beautiful trail. So this 50, which is South Downs Way 50, same race.
Is this the section where Thames Ring 250 miler is also run on, or it's a different part?
No, that is different. That is
Okay.
totally different.
GCR is also different.
GUCR is also different,
It's
yes.
different. Okay.
Yeah, it's totally different. It's like really south of England, near the beach, towards a city called Brighton, and the trail goes on the top of the city. Starts from Winchester, finishes in a place called Eastbourne, all the way on a very beautiful trail. So when I did that first ultra, I thought that we all have this itch of like going a little bit longer. In my journey, I was doing marathons earlier, so road background, typical.
Yeah.
And then when I got into these trails, I was gradually increasing. So from marathon, I did like some 150K race or something on trails, and then the 67 ultra, and then I thought that maybe I should try a few 50 milers. So just before this 12 hour and 8 hours output, there was another 50 miler which I did, where I think I did 12 and a half or something, and I had a massive ITB problem in the second half of the race, so it was a slow effort, but it was my first, and that gave me a confidence that I can do this race,
Okay.
right, or this distance. And then I wanted to tweak it, that how fast I can go. But in doing that process, when I did second 50 miler, which is this 12-hour effort on South Downs Way 100, South Downs Way 50, I also used it as a sort of like a race where I can gather more data for my 100 miler. This was about the time when I think Ajit added me to the Shades group, and I kept getting inspired by all these 100 miler stories and everything. So
So was this in 2019, 2020?
2020, exactly.
2020. Oh,
So
wow.
this was
Okay. You still had
2020,
races.
just 2020, and it was a very funny year. So 2019, I did this Butcom Ultra 50 miler where I had this ITB thing, right? And then I thought that maybe I should do 100 miler, Butcom Ultra 50 miler, sorry, not 100 miler, just for correction. So 2020, I wanted to do the 100 miler. And the way I set up my race plan was that in April, I'll do a 50 version of that race, which is the last 50 miles. And then 2 weeks after, so 50 mile happens in April, and then 2 months later, sorry, not weeks, 2 months later in June, I guess, the 100 happens. So it was a good way to sort of like train for the second half, give a big punch to your system, adapt, consume that load, and then tune it up and do 100 mile. But as we all know, 2020 was a very interesting year.
Right.
Yeah.
Races were getting cancelled left, right, and center. So what happened was
I'm surprised they continued with the race.
so race didn't happen in April
Oh,
because there
okay.
was lockdown everywhere. But there was a brief window, I think around October 2020, when they managed to push a 50 miler in there, the South Downs Way 50 mile, right?
Oh, okay.
And they changed the calendar in such a way that 50 mile was supposed to happen mid of October, and 2 or 3 weeks after, and they were trying to do the 100 mile. And I was registered for both.
Okay.
So I was well prepared to do the 50 mile with, say, for example, 50 to 55% of an effort, and then take it as like a final big training run, taper for like next 2 or 3 weeks, and then do the 100. That was the plan. But
Okay.
what happened was I was able to do the 50 mile, and then again UK government put the restrictions, and that 100 miler got moved to 2021 June. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So this so this 12-hour effort was sort of like a training race where I was just gathering the data, that okay, this is how I will get in, and if I'm feeling shit, then this is how my pace will be. This is my 55% effort, etc., etc. So I was gathering a lot of data,
Okay.
and then
So you think you could have
um,
run like 10 to 11 hours that day if you were kind of racing
yeah, so
this for?
exactly. So that's what came in my mind, that when the race got cancelled, 100 mile, and moved to next year, I was like, okay, how fast can I run it if I have to
Right.
run the same route, right?
Right.
And this 8-hour effort is same race, which happened again in April. Yeah. And next year in 2021 with like normal schedule, because every year it happens, 50 mile happens in April and then 100 mile happens in June. So we got some sort of like discounted entries again in 50 miler. So I did that South Downs Way 50 again in April. But then this time the idea was totally different. The idea was, if I try to run a race with, say, for example, 70-75% effort, what kind of data will come out of it? Because I was just trying to simulate how will I feel in that course when I will be doing 100 mile, right? I could feel shit, so that could be like 45-50% of effort. I could feel really great, maybe 70-75% of effort with some really fresh legs. So how the data will come out. So it was just gathering that, and then obviously getting a good training out of it. And the last section of South Downs Way 100, which is like probably last, I would say 22
So,
miles, is like
so
big climbs.
did you change anything with respect to refueling or your training between your first and the second 50 miler?
Yeah.
Apart from the effort?
Yeah, just a little bit here and there. So for example, when I did it first, it was like winter time. So few kit changes because April was sort of like, we were getting into spring kind of time, and it was hot as well. So a few tweaks here and there. Then I was trying to nail my cramp strategy. So few sort of like training that central governor kind of thing, so breathing practices into some faster efforts, trying to remain calm, and then obviously tweaking the way I will spend my time on the aid station. So in 12-hour effort, I took generous time on the aid stations. Say, for example, if I'm feeling really bad, how would I reset? What would I be doing, et cetera, versus, bottles open while running, powder while running. I go in there, volunteers, here's my bottles, fill in, I take it, and within a minute I'm out. That kind of aid station strategy.
So Jeev,
So
did you count calories, like probably in your first 50 miler when you did one in 2020? So that time was more of a like a initial experiment, right? And that time you did not have any data for 50 miler. But now when you ran the second one, you have your data from the first one, so you could be bold in certain aspects and go out faster. Or so what changed, like?
yeah, so for preparing for this 100 miler faster effort, see, time was not the ultimate aim actually. But say, for example, in this 50-mile case, where I did the 8 hours effort, the main thing was I didn't want to run faster, right? I'm not a fast runner per se, but I'm very good in logistics. So how do I improve my logistics while running and spend really bare minimum time is what makes me faster. So for example, aid station strategies, for example, shoe management, for example, handling the issues or fixing the issues, or even identifying the issues before they become the issues or manifest actually in your body. Other things where I was like trying to improve, and obviously you try to run a little bit faster or improve your economy as well. So for example, in 12-hour, I try to focus more on power hiking, whereas in 8-hour effort, the similar climbs I was trying to run. So, so if I would power hike, what would be my time output? How would I fuel? How would I feel?
Exactly, the fuel
Versus,
point, the Jeep. So, but my main question was about the fuel. Like,
yeah.
did you count your calories? Did you like increase the calorie amount that you took
Not
whenever you were doing like 8 hours?
Not really, not
Ah,
really. So I mostly was somewhere between 60 gram to 70 grams,
okay.
and that's what my body consumes really, really well. And I have probably sticked to 60s to 70 grams even till now.
So
What's
your
your
economy got better. Your economy probably got
yeah.
better, right? Your body could manage with probably same amount of calorie, but maintaining a higher pace at the same time.
Yeah, but then remember, I mean, in the previous attempt, my goal was not to run faster or to run with that economy, right?
Okay.
My goal was I will run with my 50-55% effort. Whereas in this case, my goal was to run with like 70-75% of an effort and try to gather that data. Both of these races were not my A races.
Sure.
My A race was my 100-mile. But obviously gathering this data, gathering how I'm feeling, at different sections, body management also, because in these longer climbs, which happens in the last section of this race, these are like white cliff chalk hills, right? So when sun really hits, it's like an oven, right?
Right.
So you are getting hot from top, you're getting hot from bottom, right? And body management becomes really important in that scenario. And fast forward, it will help in Spartathlon as well. We can talk about it later on. So how do I manage my body with an output which can suffice the time goal or my feeling goal is something which I was just trying to tune in these two efforts.
So, what is your go-to refueling in terms of combination of gels and sports drink? Do you have any khichdi or anything like that?
Yeah. I'm a big fan of a few Indian delicacies and khichdi, which we talk a lot about in Shades. I haven't tried it in race, to be honest, but in Bob Graham, I did try dal bhat. We can talk about it later. But in this particular case, see, before this, when I was doing shorter trail efforts or the initial races, I struggled a lot with fueling, particularly when I was making my fueling strategy more gel or drink mix based. Yeah,
Okay.
it was just not working. So then I introspected and looked, how we can sort of nail it. I worked with my wife, on these things, and fast forward now, or even during these races, we sort of agreed by relying more on solid fuel, which my body understands as a software really, really well and can process it fast, with some toppings of gels and drink mixes. So in that exploration journey, tailwind is something which I found works really, really well with my body. And then soaked dates, few nuts. Ajit's favorite aloo bhujia works really, really well. And pre-race, sabudana khichdi is my go-to carb loading sort of thing, right? So, and nut butters like coconut nut butter with almond butter in it, etc. So what I was doing was like putting the solid fuels, which were easy for my body to process, with an output where I'm demanding a lot from the body, with obviously gels and drink mixes here and there.
Okay.
And I have pretty much maintained that strategy till now because it works for me.
So even in a longer format race beyond 12 hours, you can have a reasonable amount of solids late in the race as well.
Yeah, so that changes, I think, for all of us at different point of times. So obviously, we all hit a patch where solids are not going in our body. And the age old of Coke, flat Coke, etc., works really well. Ginger cubes, desi ginger cubes with some sweet stuff on top of them, they work really well with me. And I just try to go through that patch, take the shovel out, and then body, after some point of time when you have relaxed it, it just comes back and start processing it again.
Okay. The other, one more question I had was, you mentioned the kind of effort you had for the first 50 mile or second, right? What is your kind of metric for monitoring that? Was it just rate of perceived exertion, or was it heart rate based, or was there any other tool you were using to measure your effort?
Yeah, so See, I in initial days of running, I was like, heart rate and all of that, etc., etc. But very quickly, I realized that monitoring your effort based on heart rate could be a very risky strategy. So now I'm purely field based.
Based.
So even in this data gathering exercise of like B races, I'm primarily going by feel. Because the main metrics for me is if I'm having a climb of this ascent and this long, how am I feeling, and it depends on day-to-day basis, right? One day I can climb the same thing with probably 60 effort, but faster. But the other day I'm feeling like 90% of the effort and
Yeah.
a little bit slower. So it's very variable. It depends how you show up on that day. So primarily now it's just field based, and even in this case, it was like very field based.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, a lot of useful info, Jeev. Moving on to your A race for that year, right?
Yeah.
South Downs 100 miler. So how do you end up getting a Spartathlon qualifier in your first 100 miler? That's puzzling. I mean, everyone goes into a 100 miler thinking, okay, let me just get a finish, and you just knock it off. It's almost like playing in Lords and getting a first century in your test match.
I think my time was like 19 hours for my first 100 mile. I think it had like 4,500 meters of ascent, and this is the only race which was worthy of putting in the application of Spartathlon, and yeah, it was a qualifier for them. So it wasn't like I never knew that I would do Spartathlon, and why I chose to do Spartathlon is something we can talk about later. But on the day when I wanted to do a 100-mile race, my main goal was I wanted to have a beautiful experience out of that race. Yeah, that was my main goal. Obviously, we all have numbers, and if you fancy, I can share the spreadsheet, how I did the planning and stuff like that. But the main goal was I just wanted to have a beautiful experience, particularly in the first half of the race, right? So a lot of chit-chatting, meeting new people, connecting, um, hug some old friends, meet some new friends, something like that. And then
So did this race, the first 50 miler, overlap with your the April 50 miler?
the last 50 miles, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So
So
you know
the
what
first
to
50,
expect. Yeah.
yeah. So I knew what will hit me, right? In last 50 miles, and the last 50 miles are actually the hardest ones. So so I really wanted to race first 50 mile like really easy peasy. And then I wanted to race the last 50 miles, especially the last 20 to 30 miles of the 100 I wanted to race. Um, so on the day, I didn't have any time goal per se. I have like scenario A, scenario B, scenario C based on my splits. And I kind of knew that if I would have a best day, I could do 18 and a half hours. And if I would have a, not so good day, then probably I can do somewhere around 21 hours or something.
And
And
how did you come up with that kind of a number based on your other shorter races or other peers?
yeah, so mainly just reading the course profile. So as I said, I plan. I'm a huge planner. I geek out a lot on these things. So I create like very data oriented, very detailed loggings in my spreadsheets. So reading the terrain, knowing, okay, this is flat course, this much of elevation, so I can probably run it this much. And knowing few runners who are of similar capabilities. So in
Okay.
many races, you find previous year's data. So I was just taking their data for, say, for example, last 4 or 5 years, where the conditions have been similar, and then averaging it out in spreadsheet, and then knowing, okay, if I would, these are the sort of splits which resonates well with me. So you have
Okay.
kind of like a ballpark idea, what kind of splits you can probably aim for. And then you try, when you go for recce, you try to run with those splits and see how you feel. If you're feeling really crap and you can't sustain, then those splits are not for yourself. But if you can go easy peasy and run those splits, then probably you can have that in your strategy. So that's how I made the strategy. So I had like A, B, C scenarios, and then on the day, um, it was a really hot day, one of the hottest day in that year in the summer. So obviously I have to retweak my strategy to in such a way that I want it to be fresh when I reach the 50-mile point, which was the major checkpoint. So I invested a lot of time in my body management. So keeping myself cool, maintaining the effort so that I'm not too hot, fueling, obviously, etc., etc. So by the time I reached 54-mile point, which was the major aid station, I had my proper kit and everything to reset. So tops off, etc., everything. Gypsy bath, perfume everywhere. And then toothbrush and all that, fresh kit, and then off we go, kind of approach.
So
I
what
was
was your split at 54?
I don't remember actually, to be honest.
Okay. Somewhere
I can
around
check.
9 to 10 hours, maybe. Eight
Um,
to 8.5 to 9.5, maybe.
yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Probably it was something like that. But maybe I
Yeah,
can
that's okay.
check. 9.5 hours. Yeah, 9:30 or something.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah,
In the
9:30.
So,
second
so
half,
you had 10.5 more.
Yeah, so
You
10
had 10
hours or
and a half.
something.
Yeah. 10.
so
10
Jeev,
hours. Yeah.
in the second half, can you take pacers or something like?
Yeah, so I was very fortunate actually in that race, that I managed to get crew and also a pacer. So basically, I helped someone to run Grand Union Canal race.
Right.
Yeah, few weeks before my race, and that guy apparently, he happens to live near where this race finishes. So during the conversation, he said, "Oh, you're doing this race?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Have you got a crew or a pacer?" And I said, "No, man, I just don't like running with crew or pacers or something. So I just wanted to go solo." And he was like, "I'm happy to crew you, if you don't mind." And look at my luck. It's funny ways universe works sometimes. Him and his wife, they are like ace crewers. So
Oh, wow.
people pay for them to
Oh, they are
crew.
professional crewers.
Yeah, so I mean they are
Wow.
very known for crewing actually.
Yeah.
So people pay their flight tickets and rooms, etc., for them to come to Spartathlon and crew actually. So especially his wife, she would know like 2-3 hours before what you need. She's that kind
Oh
of
wow.
lady. Some people are like ace crewers. They don't run, but
Yeah.
they
Awesome.
know everything about runners, right? So I was very fortunate to have this couple. And then he asked someone in his running group, who happens to be again from the place where the race finishes, to pace me in the last, I think, 30 miles or so. That's where I needed. So yeah, so race allows you to have pacers after 50 mile, yes, 50 or
Uh-huh.
60-mile point.
That's good.
So I had the pacer, yes. And pacer was also a very interesting guy. He is the head of some, special police department or something, and he basically knew everything about me,
Oh wow. Okay.
Oh,
from
wow.
whatever. So I was
Wow.
like, oh my, and he was like talking all these things. I was like, how do you know that? And he's like, well, it's good to know someone in police department, so you're lucky now that you have a
He looked you
contact.
up. He looked you up.
Yeah, he came
Amazing.
with proper research that what school I'm from, that I have done a FKT on blah 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 route, and then he watched that movie also. He recognized my friend. So a friend of mine, he turned up, him and his wife turned up in middle of nowhere and one of the meeting points, And he recognized my friend that, hey, you're Jeev's friend? And he's like, yeah, but how do you know? Oh, I saw your college pictures actually, so I know you, that you were with him in his pictures. And he was like, who's this guy?
Yeah, spooky.
So yeah, very, very interesting story. Sorry, I digressed. But yeah,
No, that's
that's how the
No,
interesting.
race
Yeah,
that's
unfolded.
interesting information
that that
actually.
makes
Yeah.
that makes the experience
Yeah.
much richer. Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So so in the second half, right? You finished around 19 hours. So I'm guessing you may not have too much of a night portion to run through. So must have finished like 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock based on when you
Uh,
started.
no, so I think race starts like um 5 a.m. or something. It
Oh wow.
started.
Okay. So
Yeah, or 5
so
or 6 a.m. or something like that. Yeah.
by 11 it's 18. So by midnight you were done.
Yeah, by midnight we were done, and my crew submitted me in the Airbnb, and the
Awesome.
Airbnb guy was like, so what happens with me is like after the race, I just go like this, I'm like shaking and everything. My core
Yeah.
body temperature goes down
Right.
like very
Lots of
fast.
calorie, lots of calorie. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. So he was like, what has happened to him? Do I need to call ambulance and whatnot? So yeah, by midnight I was done. Yeah, so I didn't go into the night. The first experience I had of running a very long race, going into the night, and then the next day is Spartathlon.
Right.
Amazing, amazing. One last question before we move on. For someone who would like to qualify for Spartathlon, what's your recommendation? What they have a broad range of distances to pick up, right? From shorter races, you have to finish much faster, as opposed to longer races, you have a little bit more time. What is your recommendation on what kind of race to pick, and any tips you have in getting into Spartathlon, qualifying
Yeah,
wise?
yeah. So I was lucky that my 100-mile race, which was a trail race, had 4,500 of meters of elevation. It was worthy enough for me to give, you know, the qualification for Sparta. But
Right.
the general strategy from my experience, I would say, is to choose flat 100 miles if you can,
Mhm.
preferably track races.
Right.
If
Okay,
if track ultras is your thing, you can go into that zone inside and handle that monotonity, handle that constant compounding
Right.
of same muscle group.
Right.
It prepares you really, really well to run for Sparta.
Mhm.
So I would tell people to focus on track races if you can, and if you can get some faster times. You don't have to run 24 hours. You can try to achieve some faster 100 miles if you can.
Right. Right.
That would really, really help. So instead of focusing on 24 hours and get like 200 plus kilometers or something, rather focus on 100-mile and get some faster times in 100-mile.
Also, Jeev,
okay.
some of the like 24-hour races, right? They give a 100-mile split as well. I
Yeah,
Yeah,
think
yeah, yeah,
so that's something probably is a good
yeah.
way to go in. I mean, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of people in UK, they try that approach. So they turn up in these 24-hour track races, but they give official 100-mile splits as well. So they use those timings
So
to
what if
apply.
you stop after 100 mile in a 24-hour race? You are DNF in the
That's
24, right? But you still
no,
get a
no, yeah,
no,
yeah. You
no,
get
Oh,
official
no,
time.
no. No, you
It's
don't DNF in the time race because you
yeah.
cover the
no,
distance.
yeah,
You can just stop
yeah,
right there, right? Yeah.
yeah,
So
exactly.
if you
So
stop there, usually what happens is you get that 100 mile at split, as well as your 24-hour time will also be 100 miler
Right,
wherever
right.
24
you
Yeah.
distance will be the
stop there.
same.
Gotcha.
24
Yeah.
distance will be the
That's it,
same. Yeah.
right?
Exactly. So
Okay,
that is a very good way to achieve a qualifier in my view. And
okay,
Right.
also, it can act as a very good training for Sparta, because it simulates a lot of scenarios which you will endure in Sparta. And the best way to train for that is doing track races.
All right,
Awesome.
that's great.
Yeah.
Hey, Jeev, so you went to Sparta and you kind of really performed well in that race. Like you finished in 32 hours, 45 minutes time. That's awesome, right? I mean, I know people who had been going to Sparta year after year, but not able to finish the race. But you went there first time and you killed the race. That's awesome. So congratulations on that. So, but we want to know a little bit about like what inspired you to run Spartathlon? Like,
You want to,
why did you pick the race?
people, you want to move to the next slide?
Yeah, so that's to that. Yeah.
Yeah. So why Spartathlon is a I think the reason was very different in this case. So after I did my 100 miler in June 2021. In August 2021, I lost my mother. So that was a very big blow to me. I was just shattered, to be honest. We all know, we are in this age that, uh, someday it will happen to our parents. But we are never too old to lose a parent, man. So I was just totally broken. And after that, what happened was I just lost mojo of racing. So I didn't race at all. I was just finding some excuse or the other. I was running, and running was one tool which kept me sane, which helped me to come out of that grief or manage it somehow or things like that. So I didn't race at all for almost entire year. And then last year in I think when we were applying, when there was this qualification time, you have to apply for Sparta. So whatever race you have done, if you have a qualifying race, that qualification is valid for 2 years.
Okay.
So if I wanted to do Sparta in 2023, my 2021 timing will be applicable. And as I said, this was the only time I had, right? So when Spartathlon qualification or application sort of thing came, someone reached out to me and said, "Hey, why don't you want to apply?" and blah blah. And then I thought that, and I was going through this process of, accepting and, having a different kind of relationship of, mom's loss and trying to celebrate her life with me and for me and etc. whatever she has done. So I thought that Spartathlon would be a good race to do. The reason being because, see, 100-mile races and races longer than 100-mile are, I think I call them as journey races, right? Yes, there is a performance aspect you can apply to these races, but when you do these races without a very, performance sort of outlook, you go through so many experiences inside you. You can go really, really deep inside you. And when mom passed away, I took like 3 months of sabbatical from my work to, try to sort myself out. And in that process, I went to different part of the world. 1 month I was in Bali, and I find out different ways in the universe through which, I realized that there are some forms in which you can connect to your loved ones, you know.
Wow.
And then I went deeper and deeper into it. I'm an engineer by training, I'm a very, acute
That's
analyst by professions, but
that's
still
really
there.
surprising. Being from India, you're an engineer.
That's a good
Very
one.
funny. That's a very good one. But what I meant
I
was
would I
like,
wouldn't have guessed it. Yeah.
yeah. I am Indian IT male. So, yeah, but I mean, because you're from science background and stuff like that, some of these things you can easily shrug off and say, yeah,
Right.
but I went deep into it, and I found the channels and things, which meant so much to me. So Spartathlon was a way of like celebrating my mother's life, a way of like saying that, running is something which really helped me to heal. And what could be better than doing a race where you see half of the country, A, B, go through different times of your day and different emotions. In 100 mile, you could have like, a couple of really deep patches, right? Whereas in a race like this, and so hard race like this, you would definitely have so many patches where you can connect to the people in the special world,
Totally.
and come out of it. So that was like main motivation, that uh, if there is something like that, does it really exist? Let's see how it experiences when that happens. And boy, this race, seriously, I had such a profound experiences in Spartathlon that, I mean, words will not be able to explain it, but I was able to get what I wanted out of this race.
So, Jeev,
So
so
that was the
how?
motivation of doing Spartathlon. Sorry.
Totally. Hey,
Yeah.
Jeev, sorry for your loss. I can
Oh,
totally
thanks, man.
feel what you feel here. I lost my mom too at one point,
Yeah, I know.
and you can connect. Yeah,
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying here. So moving on, I wanted to ask you, how did you manage the, Spartathlon pace? How did you keep the basket behind? I mean, you were ahead, way ahead, but at some point of time, did you feel that you might fall behind pace, or you were always right on the clock? How did it
Yeah.
work for you?
So again, uh, the kind of runner I am, I just geeked it out. I had spreadsheets and all that
Right.
stuff, scenarios that will be the time I'll try to hit, and et cetera, et cetera. But you can have a plan, and then you don't have a plan when you get punched on your face, right?
Right.
You have to just improvise, and this race is like that. So your plan should be very nimble in this case. So what happened was, when I started running, obviously the first, I would say, half marathon was okay, and by that time you come out of Athens and you hit this coastal road winding, going down sort of like a coastal road, where on the left you have this turquoise blue sea,
Right.
and this sort of like a small road is like going into the next villages and towns, but then the sun starts coming out, right? And I did my heat training protocol and all of that, but on the day, the temperature was sort of like broadcasted to be few degrees lower than what I was thinking. So one mistake which I did was, like, I said to myself that maybe I should not drink as much as I planned originally. Yeah. So originally I planned like more than a liter every sort of like hour-ish, which is quite a lot, right? So I think, looking at back, I discounted that a little bit, and that costed me. The moment I crossed like a marathon mark and it was like really hot,
Wow.
I started having stomach issues, and my pee was like really, really dark brown. And I'm a kind of a runner who
Wow.
drinks a lot, and I don't mind peeing every 20 minutes or so. Sometimes some of my runners and pacers, they get really annoyed, but I don't mind spending 15 seconds or 20 seconds on peeing rather than, struggling with dehydration, right? I'm that kind of runner. So for that runner to have this sort of like dehydration was completely beyond me. And I had stomach issues. Things went down south. If you
That's
puke,
pretty
then you
early
can
on,
manage.
right? That's pretty
Yeah,
early on,
pretty
like
early. Yeah,
marathon.
pretty early.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just after the marathon, somewhere around like 50, 60K mark.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to squat by the side of the road, right? And it's a funny story. So I'm squatting there and I'm like feeling embarrassed. Oh my God, man, this is so bad, out in the middle of like everywhere, and there are like cars passing by, and then they are honking, and I'm like feeling so embarrassed, sitting by the side of the road, squatting there. And then all of a sudden, another car, so few of the cars have passed honking, and then another car comes, and then the guy comes out of the window and said, "Bravo, bravo, bravo," And I'm like, oh my
Oh my
God,
God.
actually they are not honking, they are encouraging me. So
All
I was like,
right.
oh, then I was like, oh yeah, let's
Do
get on with the
more. Let's
business.
do more.
It's like
Yeah, don't
been there, done that kind of thing.
yeah, don't stress out too much, it's okay. So
Wow.
yeah,
Did you
so I
have
mean,
any crew at that point, or did your professional crew join?
no, so I went crewless in this race.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. In Sparta, I didn't have any crew, because there are aid stations every 5-6 kilometers, so
Right.
you don't necessarily need it. But yes, they can play a role, but it's pros and cons. Having a crew could let you stop like longer, I think. And whereas, if your crew is very efficient, then you can have a very wonderful race as well.
Right.
Anyways, so I was struggling a lot, and that's where I went into like body management mode. So I was like, I need to really solve this, otherwise I can't have a good race. And Spartathlon is a race where first 50 mile they will make you run faster. So you have to finish in like
Nine and
nine
a
and a
half or
half
something.
hours,
Yeah.
9.5 hours for first
Mhm.
50 mile in
Mhm.
a very, very hot day, right? And those checkpoints and timings are very aggressive. So for someone who have never bothered about cutoffs, for that kind of runner to think about it is a very stressful scenario, right? I really have so much respect for folks in Shade's group, who beat cutoffs, and they fight cutoffs and still have a fantastic race outcome. It's beyond my belief, how they do that. I can never do that. I get like super stressed. So when I was thinking like, okay, I have just like 10 minutes or 5 minutes and things like that, I got like really, really stressed. But then again, the way I run is like I divided the race in three parts, and first part was like being calm, So I was trying to remind myself, just relax, be calm, be calm. It's okay, be calm. And I reached 50-mile point, I think in 9 hours, 15 minutes or so, and quickly got out of it. And thankfully the temperature went down, and because I was focusing a lot on my body for last 3-4 hours, it started to come back, in the night. And then I have a different experience
Right.
afterwards. Yeah, but the first
How
half,
would you?
first 50 miles was like very, very tough. Yeah.
Wow.
So how did you break? I mean, this is such a long distance, and not just a long distance, it's a pretty aggressive race as well. I mean, the way I look at it is it's kind of a Boston Marathon of ultra running, with not just getting in is tough, getting out at Sparta is also extremely tough, right? So it's both
Yeah.
the entry level standards are pretty high and the exit standards are also pretty high. So how did you end
Yeah.
up breaking this whole 150 miler where you have to run like almost like a close to tempo effort, or not a tempo
Yeah.
effort, but a pretty hard effort, right?
Yeah. See, if you are someone who likes to do road ultras or track ultras, Spartathlon, Bad Waters, these are like the holy grail of that format. Yeah.
Mhm.
So in Spartathlon,
But that water still it has 48 hours.
yeah.
In
So
terms
so so
of
that's where
runnable
that's where.
portion, yeah, in terms of
Right.
runnable portion, you're right. In terms of the challenges of heat, you're right. But still, bad water can be done by a lesser effort too. But
Yeah.
getting out of Spartathlon is it's a
That's
it's a
where
running ultra.
Spartathlon. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's where I have not done Badwater, but I have spoken to many people who have done both multiple times, and they have put Spartathlon above Badwater just because
yeah.
of this aspect, because the race is very aggressive, and all the who's and who's of this format comes in this race. And when you are there, I felt very scared. Camille Heron was there, and these, Fortes and all these guys, they were just standing there. And the physique itself is like daunting, seeing these runners whom you even don't know their bodies, and I'm there with my little Indian tummy, and I'm like, what the hell? I don't belong here. But back to your question, I divided race in major three parts. So part 1A, being calm; part 2, being curious; part 3, being confident. And Within that, I had sort of like fueling strategy for different aid stations. So in Spartathlon, you have aid stations every 5 or 6 kilometer, and you can leave like a small pouch the day before the race at these numbered aid stations. So I prepared that exhaustive race strategy, thinking that, okay, I might feel like this, I might feel like that, so I might have this, I might have that. So I put all those in pouches.
So
So
that
I
many
was
pouches, Jeev? How many pouches have to
yeah,
be? Like many.
yeah, yeah,
There are
quite,
about 75 drop stations.
yeah,
I mean, pretty much
there are
all
like
aid
70.
station you can have a drop bag, right?
But you do not
Yeah,
need to
yeah.
go to each aid station, right? If it is every 5, 6 kilometer, especially in the
No,
night.
you don't have to. But what happens is like you pretty much do
End up
when
doing because you're carrying light.
yeah, when you have like really tough sections during the day, you stop like pretty much every aid station to either cool down yourself, or to grab like watermelon, or maybe some like really cold water to
Right.
keep your core body temperature and things like that, right? But
Okay.
you don't have to stop at every aid station point, and I had that in my strategy as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, 70 plus
Wow.
checkpoints you have. Yeah, that's true. So I divided them in like these chunks. So they were like themes for every part and things like that. And when I was running, I was just focusing only on that part. So in the first part, I was just focusing to reach at 50-mile point with as best as possible way, right? Because I was suffering a lot. And in the night section, my main thing was, just keep fresh, and don't spend yourself, because what happens is as soon as you hit 50-mile mark, the next section, as you can see in this course profile, becomes very hilly.
Right.
Yeah.
So the hills start to come, and
After
it's like
100K,
very
it
rolling.
seems like pretty
Yeah,
hilly. Yeah.
it's like very rolling kind of terrain, and it goes the road becomes into like a country road with olive farms on the left and right center, small villages. You will have a lot of motivation when you go through these small villages, meet people, they take your autographs and all, and they are really really passionate about this race. So you do come out of those low patches by relying on these things. But what I was focusing on was in the second half, especially when my body started to recover, that how the night will be like,
Right.
because I have never run, as I told you before, through the entire night and then looking forward to the next day for considerable period of time. This was the first time I was going through that. And then the funny thing is, I have a spirit animal called, which I call as Dark Wolf. So it's like my trail name. In
Yeah.
US, you have this
Yeah.
trail
Trail
name
names. Right.
culture, right? Yeah, so
Yeah.
I have so Dark Wolf is my trail name. So I said that Dark Wolf will come out in the night and enjoy it. And funny enough, when I was running in the night in this Tagia Valley, you have like these mountains on both sides of the roads. So you see the silhouettes of these mountains, and the moon was like really big moon on that day,
Wow.
like massive moon. Oh my God. And you have stars and everything, and they were like jackals howling, like
Wow.
Oh. Okay.
and so I was like, man, this is it, So I was like totally dialed into that aspect of running, where you are more mindfulness, your senses are like everywhere, trying to process all of that. So so I started feeling better, and then I changed my plan completely because body was not taking the usual stuff which I had in my pouches. So I relied on like soups in the night. And what happens is when you're running for such a long period of time through heat and everything, your in your body, your pitta and vata increases a lot. And then you have to, bring it down to a balanced state. And soup is a great way to do that, right?
Right.
So I was looking for like some salty, fatty sort of like soup. And there were like veggie soups available. At one point, one girl gave me chicken soup. And I was like, vegetarian, vegetarian, yeah, vegetarian, yeah. And then I had like this big chunk of chicken in my mouth. I was like, oh man. So I just spit it out and drank the rest of the stuff,
Yeah.
There's no point in
That's
being vegetarian in that kind of situation, right? So
exactly.
so yeah, I changed my strategy, and soup was working really well in the night. So continued with that. But then what happened was I had like massive chafing like in the
With all
night.
the sweat and yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I was having this ice bandana, and all of that was going as well in your groins and stuff. So I had
Right.
like
Oh man.
big chafing, and I stopped. There were like crew vehicles at different points. See loads of them, right? And I was asking people, do you have chafing cream or something like that? And Spartathlon is a
Okay.
very international race.
Yeah.
So if you ever do that, I mean, there's no guarantee that you will find people who speaks English, right?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay.
And there were people who were like, no, I don't understand.
Don't
And I
understand.
was like, oh man. And then I ran again, find someone else, find someone else. But I wasn't getting lucky. And then I carried on, and then all of a sudden I listened a voice, hey, cram, hey, cram, hey, cram. And then I stopped, and I saw this lady running like mad, after me, waving her hand and headlight. And she came, oh, cram, for
Oh my.
chafing, cram, and she was
Wow.
someone's crew, right? And I
Hmm.
probably asked her, and she found something, and she ran probably for good, I would say 800, 900 meters after
Oh,
me,
wow.
this
Wow.
poor lady. And I was so emotional. I was like, so thank you, and I took that from her, and I applied, and then I carried on. And then I found similar trail or road angel, I would say,
Yeah, sure.
later on, early morning, who helped as well. And this guy was funny. He gave me this cream, and he's like, you will feel spicy there. And I was like, man, I was so scared to apply it. And I was like, what the hell is this guy giving me?
Fire.
And I was like, shit,
Spice,
man.
huh?
Yeah. So he must have, maybe he's saying, sometimes you apply these creams and you feel
Yeah,
like a little bit like
warm.
cold
Yeah,
kind of thing. And
yeah.
so
Mm.
he found spicy is the right word for Indian guy to understand the
Oh,
feeling.
right. Yeah, right.
So yeah, these funny stories, when we look
Hey,
back and laugh about it.
probably you haven't heard about our towel story in Sage Group. But anyway, we'll keep that short about it.
Oh, okay. I'm curious.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
someday when we will be having beers, probably we can
Yeah. When you
share
have fire, you need to innovate. There are certain ways.
it.
Yeah, there are specific ways for it. Without the
Yeah.
sapping cream. You don't need sapping
Uh,
cream. Yeah.
Oh man.
nice,
I
nice.
can totally relate to you. Yeah.
Yeah. So these were the things which were happening. But in the night, what happened was, my body came out like very, very positively out of this whole thing which it experienced during the day. And I started feeling really, really well. And then there was a moment which was like, I think around 3 a.m. or something. And it was like very misty on the road. I was just by myself, running, and all of a sudden I connected with my mother. And uh, and no, before that, what happened is, do you see this 100-mile climb, this big one?
Yeah. The 4,000
Yeah.
feet climb.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the story is like basically
Yeah.
just before that, you can see the slope, right? Before the steep uppish thing which goes. So that
Right.
slope is basically winding road, right? And
Uh-huh.
it's going all the way up, right? And you go to the base of the mountain.
Right.
And then you do the trail section all the way to the 100-mile point, top of the mountain, and then you descend the trail, which is like full of loose rocks, not scree, but like really loose rocks. So you have to really mind your foot. So on this winding ascent and the trail all the way on the top of the mountain, I was totally spent. And that was the first time I think I took out my phone, switched it on, and I messaged, I think in the Shades group, that guys, 100-mile point, but I'm totally spent. I'm feeling really bad. And then all of a sudden you guys, were like, oh man, keep going, blah, 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 et cetera, So that helped. But when I was on the mountain and I was about to descend, I just looked up and I said, help me out, guys. I mean, this is too much for me. And I descended, obviously feeling low, et cetera.
How were you on time by the time?
So I think I did 100-mile probably in 22 hours or something.
Okay.
So you
You
can
still had a
see,
good
like,
buffer. You had like 2 hours buffer or
yeah.
something like that,
So
right?
buffer wise, one important point for the audience is basically the race is aggressive in first 50 mile, and after that your cutoffs start to become a little bit more relaxed. Not too relaxed. You have to still run the race. This is the race where you can't walk, you can't do the
Yeah.
death march
Yeah.
unless you have run like 120 miles super fast, right? Then you can probably, so all the elites sometimes they kaboom, and then I've seen them walking the rest of the stuff.
Wow.
But if you are someone like me, you have to really run this race. So they do relax, but not too much. So I did like 22 hours or something. So you can imagine I took a good 12 to 12 and a half hours to recover my body, to come to a state where I'm feeling sort of like okay, but still crap, and I'm having doubts in me, to look forward to the next day of heat, right? So that's when I just reached out to my mother, and I think I was running on this road with misty sort of like setup, and that's when I connected with her, and then I just heard a voice,
Wow.
Chal,
Wow.
and
Wow.
I was like, obviously I started crying and
Mhm.
everything, and I felt that I had wings coming out of me, um, and then I started jogging, and then I heard the voice again, and then I started running, and then I had a very good 3 to 4 hours where I just don't know what happened, and I crossed so many runners.
Oh,
I crossed
wow.
really lot of runners.
Wow.
So and then the sun came out, I think 6 7ish a.m., and then I that feeling was lost. um, and I think she did her job and went away. So when you go through these
So
sort of like
this is the first
moments,
time you are seeing second sunrise, right? Pretty much after.
yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
this is the first time, I'm seeing this, and the sunrise was like so beautiful. So it was sort of like inversion on that day. So I could see the mountain tops and then clouds and mist everywhere. But then all of a sudden, sun came out, and the tops are like really clean, clear, and then you have this mist in these
Wow.
fields and small villages. Really, really beautiful. Roads are not that busy. People are still out of their houses early morning to encourage you. And that's where at one point, one of the checkpoints where I had my clothes in the pouch, I pressed the reset button because the chafing was becoming quite massive.
Mhm.
So I reached out to the volunteer and I said, I want to completely strip. And she was a woman, right? And then she was like, oh, okay. So she called like a couple of guys. So they put the blanket in front of me, and I totally stripped with that soreness and tightness in the body. One guy helped me. So they are really, really there for you, right? And they can do anything just to make your day, because in
Sure.
their eyes, you are like really proper
You're a warrior.
Philippides.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Philippides
Yeah.
or Greek gods, that's how they treat you, really, really. So
Absolutely.
so
Yeah.
so that guy really helped me to totally strip down, to put, stuff on me and stuff like that. And then I carried on. But learning from the previous day's heat, the main thing in this case is a lot of people, they underestimate the next day's heat. right? And so
Mhm.
that thing was there in my mind, and I started doing body management and staying on top of hydration pretty early on, like 6, 7 a.m. onwards itself, right? And that helped me to have the last 50 miles actually quite fast.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah,
and
looks
then,
like if you reach 22 hours, 100
yeah, in
miler,
10 and a
you
half
just took
hours or
10 and
something.
a half
Yeah, yeah.
hours. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah,
That,
which for that long race is quite
that's
interesting outcome,
spectacular.
Mhm.
Last
So
50 miles.
so that's the main thing about Spartathlon. It's if you can run with a decent pace, which is not like super fast, of like a 4.5 minutes per kilometer or something. No, you have to just run like 6 minutes kilometer pace, 6.5, 7-ish later in the course, or 8-ish or something like that. But the main thing is body management. If you are able to manage your body, I am a firm belief that I think we in shades can probably do it between 20 to 30 hours. It is doable, really, really doable. The only thing is you have to have some template because of which you can maintain your body um, in that sort of like environment and that effort. That's the crux to this race. So yeah, I mean, the next day was pretty straightforward, staying on top of these things. And then the last half marathon, which you can see is just downhill.
Downhill.
Um, but then what happens is, by the time the road is the main thing about this race is, obviously it's a very brutal race. It's a race you would not enjoy. Probably the night section you might enjoy, but it's a brutal race. It just breaks you down massively. Road is unforgiving, and
Wow.
the roads are also like highways actually. So a lot of fast cars are going. And in highways, some of the highways are like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Slanted, right?
Banking.
So
Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, slanting. And when you're running in that kind of slanted highway for kilometers and kilometers, your
Right.
shins and your certain aspects of your glutes, they are just gone, right?
Totally.
So if anyone prepares for Spartathlon, I think it's a good way to obviously have that track races in your training sort of strategy, but also strength training. So I had a very good strength training program as well, where I was focusing on these shins and glutes and that
Okay.
muscle group, which was getting pounded
Yeah.
quite a lot. So yeah, so last half marathon was just, shut off your brain and just go.
Right.
And when you reach into when you are reaching towards Sparta, whichever vehicle is coming, they are encouraging you. The volunteers are like super passionate about you. You know, it's more crazy in Sparta than it is in Athens. In Athens, people are probably, when you're leaving, most of the people were like, "Oh, who are these guys?
All right.
Blocking the road. What the hell?"
They'll stop. Some of them
They were like,
they'll think they'll stop. They won't make it to
yeah,
Sparta. Like
they are
whatever,
they're they're
right?
really annoyed because
Yeah.
traffic is stopped for them. They
Right.
have to go back to the work and stuff. But in Sparta,
Yeah.
when I entered into the city, and you are on the city roads, early city roads, from the buildings, all these aunties are out in their balconies and they're like, bravo, bravo, bravo,
All right.
and
Wow.
everyone's like cheering you up. And just like a kilometer before the finish, as soon as you come on the main road towards the Leonidas statue, the police vehicles, they join you behind and front, and they are like, God knows, 20, 30 kids on their cycle, they are, biking with you and cheering. Everyone is like cheering you up. To be honest, I've spoken to a lot of people who have raced all over the world, and they say that this is one of the best finish lines. And
Mhm.
boy, I had a great time finishing over there. It's really, really
Wow.
spectacular atmosphere when you finish. And these police guys are like, no, 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 making you feel like as if you're like PM on the way. Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, that's how it turned up.
That's so awesome, Zeev. Do you want to run again?
I don't know. So leading into Sparta, we had a very bad experience. Radhi's father was not keeping well. So we got that news. We both were supposed to travel there and take it as sort of like our run-occasion kind of thing. So I had booking for her as well, but she couldn't join. So from Heathrow, I flew to Greece, She flew to Pune,
Wow.
and I, at a moment, I actually thought of like not going there. But then Radhika was like, you know what, you train really well. You're the only Indian going, because we were like four athletes, and
Mm-hmm.
three of them, they couldn't go for one reason or the another from
Mm-hmm.
India. So I was
Wow.
the only one who could actually go. So she was like, no, no, you should go. So there were like a lot of apprehensions. I was doubting why I'm doing this, come on. I mean, compromising family and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, maybe someday, given my record is now broken this year, so that gives me an additional
Mm-hmm.
motivation to go back and do some faster times, but definitely not for next couple of years, because I want to
Right.
focus on mountain races.
Right. On that note, I mean, until last week, G was the fastest Indian in Spartathlon, right? With your 32 hours, 20 minutes, 20 odd minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
spectacular. Yeah.
yeah, which is funny actually, because I didn't have a timing goal. As I
Right.
told you, I was looking for an experience, and it was sort of like my comeback race.
Right.
And I wanted that connection, which I got from that race. And sometimes when you go with that sort of mindset, outcome sometimes happens by
Yeah.
default, right?
Totally. Totally.
So when I did the race, I was the only Indian over there, but thanks to the Swedish team, they sort of like unofficially adopted me,
Uh-huh.
So
Wow.
so they invited me on all of their like traditions and Sparta traditions they have, and they always kept a table for a chair for me on their tables and stuff like that. And one of the legends of Swedish ultra running community is Tobias, and Toby is very well connected with the Indian ultra runners, so Kyron and all these guys. So he has in many years helped them in these IAU races or something like that. So he's known in Indian ultra running community. So I was there, in the medical tent, right? And I messaged Toby that, hey, so what they do is, and it's also a funny story to share actually. So as soon as I finished, they give you water in the chalice from their local river, and they put all that olive, crown on you, and then photos, etc. And then they hand you over to the medical guy. And this medical lady, the nurse, she came, sir, are you okay? How are you feeling? And I said to her, look, following things will happen. I will either puke or I will pass out or I will start shivering like crazy, So she was like, okay, 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 okay. So she took me to the medical area. And man, that medical area, I have never seen a medical area like that. It was like a war room.
What the
There
hell?
were like
Yeah. Wow.
beds
Wow.
everywhere and runners like like this, lying
Wow.
everywhere, on the beds, So it was like super crazy. And I was like, I got shit scared, So she put me on one of the beds, they took off all of my clothes, these guys, and wiped everything, put a dry Sparta finisher t-shirt. And the protocol is they will wash your feet like properly, take off your shoes, wash your feet, ask you whether you want a beer or a juice, and then give you some single use or double use sandals to put your feet in. They will hand you over to either your crew, or they will bring a taxi for you, put it in the taxi, and then the taxi takes you away to their booked hotel. Yeah.
Right.
So that's the protocol. And so this lady took out my shoes and started wiping my feet and everything. And this guy came up with this bowl of water to clean my feet. And as soon as he dipped my feet, I was like, "Ooh!" I started shivering like crazy. My body
Oh
temperature went
man.
down straight away. Boom. And they got like really scared. They were like, oh my God. And then blankets over blankets, blankets over blankets. And then somehow they managed it. And she immediately gave me an IV with paracetamol.
Mhm.
So that's actually a very good way to recover,
Hmm.
right? So generally you put like a
Yeah.
lot of water, hydrate normally,
Yeah.
and
Sure.
etc., etc., and your body naturally takes it. But
Mhm.
if they give you IV straight away, I felt so better actually on
Yeah.
on the spot, and also the next day I recovered really, really quickly. I
Yeah.
wish all races provide that, but
Actually, Yeah, on that note, bad water runners realize that, so that's why they added a clause that if you need an IV during the race, you're disqualified.
Oh, not
Oh,
You
during,
you
okay.
yeah.
can't take
No,
IV
not during.
because
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
one of
yeah.
the quickest way to
Of
recoup
course.
back. Yeah, I'm sure there has been instances where people have gotten and come back, so that's why they added that clause
Yeah, it
because
could be the
there is,
case.
yeah. But
Yeah,
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 so
IV is
So yeah, so that happened, and when I was having that, I messaged Toby and said, "Hey, I need your help to put me in the hotel room which they booked for me." So Toby came and he said, "Hey, you know what? I've got this message from Peter D'Souza," and I was like, "Who's Peter D'Souza?" And he's like, "He's Kyron's father." So
oh wow,
Kyron's father is like one of those super fans of the sport.
oh
He's like
really?
such a passionate guy, and he was following me, and he immediately called Kai and said, "Hey, you know what? Your record is broken. There's this guy, Jeev, he did in Sparta." And Kai was like, "I know Jeev, he's my friend, he helps me and stuff like that." And then Peter was the first one who messaged me and wished me, actually. So that's how I came to know that Kai's record is broken.
When
But
did
yeah,
Kyron run?
Kai ran in 2016 or 15, I guess. But come on, Kyron can
Okay,
run this race way fast. He had a very terrible race. So let's not take his race output as the proper one.
yeah.
that's awesome. Yeah.
Sorry for the long monologue.
No, no, this was needed.
No, I mean
This is
this
why
deserves, yeah.
we
This
wanted to talk to you.
this
We
is a
needed these
epic.
insights, the stories, the scoops. It helped
Yeah,
our runners.
It's a wonderful
I think
race.
people had that question earlier, right? How to get Spartathlon done, assuming someone is in that border of finishing 36-hour range. Someone who has some buffer, yeah. But if someone is in the 34 to 36-hour range, what would be your suggestion uh, of executing this race? Of course, things might change, but if we had to redo again,
Yeah. So see, for someone who is in 34, 36-hour range, you can do it. It is a doable race, just believe that you can do it, right? The only thing is to manage yourself. Do not cook yourself in first 50 mile, you
Hmm.
know. Try to tick the marks so that you are above the cutoffs, not like by huge margin, but some margin, if it is possible, and then slowly and gradually build it, checkpoint by checkpoint, checkpoint by checkpoint in your second half of the race, and prepare for the next day's heat. That is
Express
what
it.
kills many people, right?
did
That
you
is
do
what
any
kills.
heat training before the race?
Yeah, I did have a heat training protocol, and man,
Okay,
oh, it was so tough. So basically, I think it lasted for like 40, 45 days. And my coach gave me this protocol. He worked with a lady who's an expert and had a PhD in heat training protocols, and he used that protocol in Western State 100 race himself, and had very good outcome in 3 years in a row, top 10.
was it sauna
So
based or were you just running in
yeah, it's
hottest
uh,
part of the?
it's 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 sauna based. So
Okay,
basically, on a usual day, you will do your hard workout, right, and straight away jump into the sauna for
Hmm.
like starting 15 minutes, and then on peak days, 30 to
Hmm.
40 minutes, and you do that. And if you're feeling really dizzy, come out for like couple of minutes, and then go back again. And after that, do not drink water straight away.
Mm.
So the trick is, if you feel really, really uncomfortable, just have a couple of sips,
Mhm.
and do not drink water for next 3 hours. And that sort of like pushes your body to increase the plasma, and bring all those, or bring your heat regulator a little bit down, so that you start sweating quicker and things like that. Um, if you would drink straight away water, it shunts that adaptation
adaptation.
mechanism.
Hmm.
Adaptation.
Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
So when I was doing that, man, after those sessions, if someone is having tea like a kilometer away, I could just listen that sound, you know. My
That's
senses
interesting.
were like my senses were like so heightened. I was looking for water and water-based something every now and then, you know,
Mhm.
because your body is in so much desperate need. It is
Mhm.
not easy, but it is worth it, and it really helps because after that protocol, you know, as soon as I was running, my body was starting to sweat immediately, and that
Mhm.
helps a lot in regulating your core body temperature. And on top of that, you have to apply these ice bandanas, white sleeves,
Mhm.
you know, dip them, put ice in there, and everything. All those remedies, you know, to keep your core body temperature down, they all help.
So, Jeev, quick question. So, when you are in sauna, inside the sauna, you don't drink any electrolyte, right, in this training protocol?
No, 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 I
Okay,
don't.
yeah, because that's something
That's
different from what I know.
yeah,
People drink electrolytes in sauna training, and they're like, "Oh no, take electrolytes to the
no.
sauna room." No, so probably not. Huh?
No, no, you can do it in your running, when you're running or stuff like that, then you can hydrate. So say, for example, you have gone for like a 1.5 hour easy run.
Right,
So do an easy run with the, you know, your constant fueling strategy, whatever you have, sip, sip, eat it kind of thing.
right.
But then when you're in sauna, I was advised not to drink. Only if you're feeling like really, really like
This,
massive need
this,
of doing it, then only have a
right,
couple of sips, and
right.
that's it.
Okay, makes sense. Okay.
Awesome. Yeah. Please continue on your other things to get it done.
Yeah, so don't cook yourself in first half. Have a reasonable buffer based on your ability. You know, you will not gain massive if you will run an hour or half faster and stuff like that. You can take this year's example, actually. Ashok had a brilliant race, you know, so he's at a new Indian record, but he ran first marathon in 3:29. But the last section, with his capability, I have heard that he's a very good runner. He could have run it even better, actually. And I think he can easily do somewhere between that 28 to 30. So the point is, do not run fast, too fast in the first half. You know, try to manage your body in that massive heat and stuff like that. And then try to increase that buffer slowly and gradually during the night, enjoy the night. And then the next day, when you are in the early morning section, try to gain some over there, still manage the heat section and during the day, and then try to race. Say, for example, last marathon or something is what I would advise for anyone in that 33 to 36 range. If you will exit it this way, then I think you can do it. If
So,
even 30% of you believe that you can do it, you will be able to do it for sure.
what about nap? Do you did you plan any naps, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever?
Yeah, so it's a very funny story. So I did have massage as a strategy actually in my plan, and there were like certain points or aid stations where the massages were there, and I thought that maybe I should take it. So I think the first point was like 110 or 120 kilometer mark, where I thought that okay, I should have a massage. So I went there, and fortunately one table was empty, and I said, okay, just behind thighs, etc., quads, because your quads just go away, you know, in this race, you know, on these roads, you know, they're just gone by the end of the day. So, and I said 5 minutes only, and just wake me up, like get me out of this aid station in 5 minutes. So they were like, okay, 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 sure. And in that 5 minute, I think I closed my eyes. I didn't sleep, but I just relaxed, you know, deep breathing, and
Mm-hmm.
tried to relax my body. And they worked on my legs, and at 5 minutes, they were like, okay, go, go. And I started running, and then I was again shivering like crazy, you know.
Mm.
So again, my core body temperature went down massively, and I was shivering and running for good 2-3 kilometers. And then I was like, I'm not gonna stop. And
Right.
this is me, you know. I don't stop in race. If I sit, then I just sit.
Yeah, it's not a
That's
good
why.
idea probably to sit down and even to take massage, especially
It
when you have
doesn't.
to move it
Yeah,
fast, right? I mean, this race you have to keep
yeah,
moving well, and
yeah.
you cannot afford to hike or walk too much here.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, they have that in their strategy. It works for them, but
Mm-hmm.
certainly I'm not the guy Stopping is something which I have still not nailed in my race
Okay.
strategy. So if I stop and sit down for 10 minutes or so and then move, that doesn't work well
Okay.
with
So
me for
basically, you're
now.
saying you should know yourself as a runner and apply the strategy as appropriate, right?
Yeah.
There is no
So
hard and fast rule here
there's no
whether
hard
to
and
take a
fast
message.
rule. A lot
Yeah.
of people do it. I've seen a lot of people taking massages, and they use that opportunity to just close their eyes and have that 1 or 2 minute of nap, which is good enough for this race because there are like a lot of points where you can stop, and that gives the enough time for that chemical in the brain to replenish by a few mLs or something, whatever, and then you feel fresh, right? But not for me. It didn't work for me.
All right. Great.
Yeah. Apart from the race itself, I heard the whole ceremony, the starting portion, the ending portion, that itself is pretty grand. How was your
Yeah.
experience on that?
Oh, it's brilliant. So, see, Spartathlon is ultra runners' dream holiday. So basically, it's expensive race. I think it costed me like 850 euros or something. But basically, you arrive on Thursday night, and hotels are booked for you. They provide you food. They provide you like a travel, etc., from the hotel to the race, from race to hotel, etc., etc. And for next 5 days, not even a pence will come out of your wallet,
You're fully
you
taken
know,
care. Yeah.
fully taken care, and you will be treated like really, really well, like
Mm-hmm.
properly, right? But obviously people celebrate and they spend here and there. It's up
Okay.
to you. So one tip is actually, if anyone does it, make sure you have some delicacies of your own, which spice up your taste here and there, because I got very bored of hotels food because they served the same thing every day,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you can take a few snacks and things like that, then that would work.
Yeah.
But ceremony wise, you finish in Sparta, and then they treat you well, and then they put you in the hotel. So they give you vouchers to have food later in the evening. So you take that food, and then you try to sleep. Next day, you have to take your bags and these pouches which you have left at aid stations from a school. So you go to that school. So I went with my Swedish mates. And then I think at 11:30 or 12, just behind the Leonidas statue, there's a athlete track, and a naked mile happens over there. So
Wow.
you strip off yourself. Everyone goes there, and people run in their undies, and it's a very fun event. After having run 246 kilometer, people are running like penguin naked over there. In my year, I think there were like few chaps who had like bit of man thong, and there was one proud American, I guess, who took it very literally. So it was good fun.
Wow.
And then I think they have now introduced beer miles again, American influence over there. So
Okay.
they do like 4 laps and beers as well.
Mhm.
So people teams go, and it's like very national vibe over there as well. Even though it's not official, but it is kind of like official. So everyone come with their national teams and stuff like that, colors and flags. So you do naked mile, and then you take shower and stuff like that, and then bus takes you to Sparta's mayor's not residence, but the mayor organizes this lunch for you, and it's a proper posh lunch, round tables, white sheets and stuff.
Wow.
They give you local wine, and food is really nice Greek exotic food. If you're a non-vegetarian, it's great. If you're a vegetarian, then I'm very sorry for you. You will have just cheese and potatoes.
Yes. Yeah.
So I was there with Swedish team, and then the starters came, and I was like, "What is in vegetarian?" "Oh, we have feta cheese and potatoes." And I was like, "Okay, fine." And it was really delicious, right? And then the lunch came, and it was lamb, it was beef, it was chicken, etc., etc. And I said, "Okay, what is for vegetarian?" "Oh, we have feta cheese and potatoes." So I got
Wow.
sick of eating feta cheese and potatoes. So that is one thing. Then you're fed. There's music, etc., etc. A lot of speeches in Greek, which you don't have to listen.
Okay.
And then they take you in the bus and bring you to Athens. You sleep in your hotel or hang out with the guys. And then the next day, I went out with Swedish guys. They had a tradition of drinking the cheapest fizzy alcoholic drink on the beaches. So I got wasted over there with them. And then in the evening, the mayor of Athens, they organize a dinner ceremony for runners, and it's like really, really exotic, dance floors and stuff. And they call every single individual or teams on the stage, give them the certificates, another medal. So you get a medal from Spartans, you get a medal from Athens guys. And I was the only Indian, so everyone was like cheering me up, like even more.
Wow.
Um, so
Goosebumps
yeah,
total. Yeah. Many
and
goosebumps moments, I guess. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I totally soaked it up, and then you eat food, really good food, and free flow wines and stuff like that, and then you dance and all. Then you go to the hotel later on once it finishes, and next day you are off. So those 4 or 5 days, it's like ultra runners' best holidays, man.
Ah, wow. Fascinating. Hey, how are you doing on time? I know it's 10 o'clock, close to 10 o'clock for you.
It's fine. Come on. I mean, I can talk to you guys as much as you want. How are you
Yeah,
guys doing on time?
we are, what do you think, people?
I can't hear you.
Hello? You're muted, people.
So we are at about 1 hour 45 minutes mark, I think.
Oh,
Eight
okay.
minutes to there. We could continue to talk about the Graham round, and maybe and publish this over 2 episodes, because given the time, we can make it 2 episodes to publish. So Anil, what do you think?
Yeah, we can do part one, part two. Uh,
Right.
d- do you have another 30 minutes,
Yeah,
Jeev?
yeah. Come on. I mean, my day is done, so it's okay.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
okay.
Then Anil,
Let's,
so you have questions on Graham Brown specifically. So why don't you
yeah,
fire it up?
can we move on to the next slide?
Yep. We are moving on to next slide. Okay, there. Oh, okay, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, amazing, amazing journey right from, qualifying in your first 100 to Spartathlon. And when I look at Bob Graham round, it can't be diametrically opposite to an event like to Spartathlon. First of all,
Yeah.
it's a free format. It's mostly adventure run, no monitoring as such, no organization, your own self-supported event, and it can be as purist as possible. Whereas Spartathlon is a fully organized event, lot of history, um, and with the aggressive timelines. Bob Graham on the other side, it's I would say it's more rustic adventure in the UK hills. Um, for those who are new to it, could you just describe what's the terrain like and what's
Yeah.
the unique challenge of Bob Graham round like?
Yeah, so Bob Graham round is one of the classic rounds over here in UK. It's a fell running round. The difference between fell running and trail running is basically in trail running, you would have defined trails to go to the highest point, say for example, and come off it, etc., etc. Whereas in fell running, the way it works is you are given set of peaks over a map and their bearings, and there will be few people standing on those peaks with some dibs a machine where you have to just insert this thing which is on your hand, and it beeps, and it records your timings, and it's up to you how you
Some
want to
kind of a
reach to those
checkpoint
peaks.
at the peaks. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's up to you how
Okay.
you reach there. So it becomes very interesting. So people take all sort of like interesting lines to reach to these peaks, and the terrain is very rough, rugged. There's no defined path actually. So especially when you come off a mountain, you just come off a mountain, you know. Sometimes people take scree lines to come fast. Sometimes people take very grassy sort of lines. If your lines are not good, in Lake District especially, it rains a lot because there are lakes and they have to be filled, right? So these mountains, they create their micro environment as well, so it rains a lot over here. So there are a lot of bogs. So bogs are basically, you know, muddy,
Swampy
grassy
area.
kind,
Yeah.
swampy kind of area. Yeah, so you don't see it, and you're running and boom, you know, your half of your body is inside that, you know,
Wow.
and you're trying to come out of it, you know, all of that. So that's the kind of terrain over here. I think Hima did the first leg from Keswick to
Okay.
Threlkeld, I guess, in winter. So you should ask him how his experience was. But it's a very low-key, community-driven kind of culture over here, fell running. So
Yeah.
races are from as short as a mile race where your lungs are literally out of your mouth, to races which are like 20 miles longer and 4,000 to 5,000 meters of ascent on a very,
Okay.
very rough,
On this course.
on these sort of mountains, not on this
Okay.
course, but in these mountains, right?
Okay.
Or fells, as they are said locally over here. So Bob Graham was a guy in 1932. He set this record of maximum number of peaks touched in 24 hours, and at that point it was 42 peaks. So he created this route in 1932. He was a hotel owner, so he created this route, and apparently over the period of time, this route itself became the holy grail of fell running, where all these seasoned, experienced fell runners, they come and try their fitness by doing this round,
Yeah.
right? And basically the round is 106 kilometers. The total ascent is about 8,000 something meters. The terrain is a mix of like really grassy kind of slippery kind of terrain, a lot of bogs in some of the legs, two legs which are like very bouldery kind of legs with super technical terrain, et cetera, et cetera. So it sort of really tests your multiple kind of skill set,
Hmm.
and also your ability to be in these rough mountains, especially when the weather element happens, right?
Yeah.
So you have to be sort of like shaped by these local mountains to do this challenge. And because there is no set lines or defined path or trails, you have to navigate, and you have to sort of like be sure of the path you are taking for the next peak. So, for example, if you see in this slide, high raise, and then there are like peaks, and then you see Bowfill. So after high raise, there are like few peaks, and all of that section is a very grassy, lot of like vegetation through which you are moving, swampy kind of ground. So you have to be very sure what lines you are taking and how you are going through the terrain to reach to those peaks, right? And that
So
becomes
did
a
you get
very
a
unique
chance?
kind of experience. Yeah,
Did you get a chance to do any recon on different
yeah,
sections? Yeah. Did you do the
yeah.
entire recon or partial?
I did I did the four legs out of five. I didn't do the fifth leg because that is straightforward, only three peaks in the end.
Right.
Okay.
So I didn't do that. But leg one, which is from Keswick to Threlkeld, I did it a few times. Leg two, which is from Threlkeld to Dunmill Race, is in my backyard, you know.
Uh-huh.
So I have been there like so many times. I have helped people in doing their bob. in those legs. So the ethos of Bob Graham Round is basically, um, um, there's a club called Bob Graham Round Club, right, which was established in late
Now
60s
you're
or 70s.
now you're part of it, being the first Indian guy to finish this.
Yeah, so the reason of doing Bob Graham, there were like different reasons, but when I found out that there is no Indian who has done it, that that brought another flavor to the challenge actually,
Right.
Sure.
and another sort of layer of motivation to doing it. Um, Anyways, I lost my chain of thought actually, what I was saying. Apologies for that.
You're talking about the club.
Oh yes, so there's a Bob Graham Round club, and to be a member of that club, there are two rules mainly, that you have to touch all these peaks within 24 hours, and there should be someone accompanying you so that that person is the witness that you are touching these peaks in last 24 hours. And then the third thing which they advises you is you help others and then others help you. That's the core structure of this ethos of Bob Graham Round community. So when people do this challenge, obviously, as you said, there are various ways to do it. A lot of people do it in a very purist way. So they do solo attempt, solo unsupported. A lot of people do solo supported. So these points like Threlkeld, Dunmill Race, Wasdale, these are basically road crossings. So that's why
Okay.
you see these steep descent and then steep up.
So
So roads,
do they drop stuff there and
yeah.
like they're
So if you're doing solo unsupported, you have to carry everything. If you're doing solo supported, so someone can meet you over there, but the entire course, no one is there. But you will
sure.
not be part of the club, right? Because club says that someone should accompany you, right? So the way I did is like, or a lot of people they do is like they request people to join them on these legs
Different sections.
as pacers and different sections, etc., etc.
Right.
So
And they will record your peaks as well, or there is a separate person
yeah,
recording
so
your
they
peaks?
they record the peak. Now everything is like tag. So there's a tracker, which I posted in the Shades group as well. So that tracker, sort of records your timings on the peak using your GPX
Oh, it's an
files. So
official
that
tracker. I thought it was
yeah,
your own.
yeah, the
Okay.
club recognizes that specific company's tracker because they have nailed all these things very properly. So they use those inputs, but they rely on your watch's GPX file as well. In old days, it was very funny. So in old days, like in those 40s and 50s, 60s, people used to write chits and drop it on these peaks, with rocks, and then someone used to collect them later on and submit in the newspaper, and that's how it was published in newspaper. Oh,
Wow.
this guy broke the record. Oh, this guy said this, did this thing. That's how they used to do it in old days.
Amazing.
Very, very funny. But yeah, so that's the ethos. So doing this challenge involves a lot of logistics, or to solve those logistics. So one of that is creating your team, and I was so fortunate and grateful that I had a great team helping me out to do this challenge.
Nice.
Yeah. How many people were crewing for you? How was your crew and pacer
Yeah,
group like?
so I wanted to do Bob Graham because um, you know I moved over here 1 year ago. We uprooted ourselves from London. Me and my wife, we always had this dream of living in the mountains. And I almost thought of like moving to Switzerland in the Alps and everything. That didn't work out for various reasons. And then we said, okay, let's come here because we used to come here a lot for holidays and stuff like that. So when we moved here, we in my healing journey after my mom passed, which is still going on, I got a lot of love and care from the local people over here, the communities. Fell running community is a very grassroots level community with full of amazing people, like common
Hmm.
people. Someone is a carpenter, someone is the guy who lays these brick walls, a
Right.
baker and this and
Wow.
that. So people like these, and they are so full of hearts, welcoming you. And the community over here is still like a very white dominated community, not
Mhm.
that many Indians live here. I think few days ago, someone told me that there's a Indian girl who lives in my village.
Okay.
So we are only the two probably,
Wow.
few people. So
Which is the village? Which is your hometown there?
it's called Ambleside. It's a village north of Windermere
Okay.
Lake. It's one of the biggest lake in UK. So that's where we moved. I have mountains all over around when I go out, so it's
Nice.
very easy for me to be in 800 meters sort of high mountains in 5 minutes or so. So I wanted to do Bob Graham as a tribute to, obviously these people, this community, the love we got over here, the welcome, and obviously these fells, because when I'm out in these fells, I'm able to connect to my ancestors, my mother. I feel really good. So that spiritual healing which happens, what is the best way to do to pay tribute to that, other than Bob Graham round, which is the toughest thing which you can do over here. So that's
Awesome.
the motivation behind it. And when I decided that, then obviously I needed a team. So my team had a mix of people. So people from my London days. So two of my road crews were my friend from London. They know me from my London days. They themselves are ultra runners, and it's very important in a round like this that your road crew or your support crew really knows you, because they could make or break your round,
Sure.
because these mountains are very rough mountains, and basically they just break you,
Hmm.
before they make you, right? So
That's
for someone as your road support, if they are really dialed into your head, and knows you really well emotionally and mentally, then it helps a lot. So I had really two good friends from that side. And then pacers, I had two pacers on leg one. They are local people. One of them is like legends of the fell running.
Okay.
And then I had another pacer on leg two, Matt Duckett, whom I helped in his bob. So he was returning the favor. He's from London, very good ultra runner, 17-hour, 100-mile pace kind of runner, so strong. And then on leg three, I had Tony
So leg
Clark
three
and
would be Dunmail to Rochdale.
Mail to Wasdale. And this is the longest leg and the most
Hmm.
tough as well,
Uh-huh.
because the terrain is very rough. It becomes very bouldery, very technical,
And must
the
be
cli-
night time as well.
No,
Not
so
yet.
from Keswick to Threlkeld, it was from 8:30 to 12:30, and then from
Okay.
Threlkeld to Dunmail, it was like 4:30, another 4.5 hours. And then from Dunmail I started, and by the time I hit Bowfell, that's when the sunrise came. And Bowfell is like in halfway mark in Bubraham. So leg three, I had Donnie Clark and David Starley. They are like my green runners buddies. By the way, Donnie Clark is the one who paced Jack Kunzel when he created the
Oh wow.
course
Bob
record,
Graham record. Yeah.
the Bob Graham
He
record
broke
of 12
he
hours or
broke
something.
Killian's record. Yeah.
Yeah, he broke Clean's records, and Donnie Clark was pacing him. So can you imagine the guy
Wow.
who paced him was
Yeah.
pacing me for leg
That's
three,
amazing.
four, and five? What
Awesome.
more can I ask, right? So I had a very good team.
Yeah.
So he's a great guy, local guy, loves these fells. He's like a British champ in V50, V40 category, actually. So I saw him running on the day. So basically, what happened is um, when I descended, so Scafell Pike is the highest peak in England, right? So Scafell Pike, and from Scafell Pike, when you go to Scafell, it's like a very technical, very loose, aggressive scree ascent. So you go through that, and then you touch Scafell, and then you see this steep descent into Wasdale,
Mhm.
and that is also like a very steep, grassy, which later on becomes grassy, but initially it's like very scree kind of descent. And when I was going through that and I reached Wasdale, I was totally, that descent was like Dementors, it just
Wow.
sucked the energy out of me, and I hit my lowest patch over there. But it was a very good time to hit a lowest patch because my team was there. They immediately
Yeah.
worked on me.
Hmm.
Okay.
The guy was like massaging my legs and everything, and tops off, changing everything. I had dal and rice over there, just trying to come out of it. And then we got into leg four. But during leg four, which is from Wasdale to Honister, you see these Pillar, Great Gable, and then there's a Green Gable and Kirkfell. These kind of big mountains are there, and
Uh,
they that that whole route is like very technical and very scary as well. A few months ago, there was a guy who was attempting Bob Graham. He passed away,
Oh,
near
my God.
Pillar. So yeah, some really scary terrain. But
How technical is it? Like, do you need any more than class 3 skills? Any class 4, class 5?
No, not really. I
Okay.
think the scrambling is very basic level scrambling, but you just have to watch out where you are putting your
legs.
steps.
Mhm.
Because if you fall, then some of the if you fall in a wrong place, then probably you will go like a few hundred meters down, sort of thing, right?
Mhm.
Or you would hit like really, nasty boulders and
Right.
probably break your bone or head or something like that. So it's that kind of thing. And running wise, you're basically just stomping or hopping from boulders to boulders, that kind of thing. And you still have to run because
The
if you
time.
just
Time is
hike,
aggressive.
yeah,
Yeah.
you have to finish it in 24 hours. So leg four from Wasdale to Honister was the time when I was running it in the middle of the day, so between 12 to 4 p.m. It was very hot, and when you are out in mountains, you must have experienced yourself. The temperature rises and it feels like even extra hot, and that's when my pacers, they went into Sherpa mode. I call it
Wow.
Sherpa mode. So basically they took off everything from
Yeah.
me and they were like fueling me, putting water in my mouth, putting food in my mouth, and
Okay.
they basically sacrificed their own water to put in my body and stuff like that. And
Wow.
that's when I saw Dhoni's actual running. So he just ran off the mountain, saw sort of like a tarn or like a lake, small lake, glacial lake. He just went off the mountain like a goat, filled the water, and I was on the route with my other pacer. And he still climbed another mountain to meet me somewhere where he has to, and things like that. So
Wow.
yeah, some
Amazing.
really strong team I had. So really grateful for them.
Awesome. Awesome. Elite team.
So
Yeah.
Jeev, a quick question. So Caswick to Caswick. So this is one loop here, right?
Yeah,
And so looks like the way you went out from Caswick, you actually came down another line, right? Because the uh, it's not exactly the same line that you come
yeah,
down or something, right?
yeah. That is actually very true. So as you see, you head out towards the Skiddaw,
Yeah.
right? So that is, I think, on the northern side of the Kazakh. I might be wrong direction wise. That is on the one side of the. So it's a small town in middle
So
of
you
these
never
mountains.
intersect. You never intersect. It's
No,
basically
no,
a loop, and that's why you have
yeah,
different
yeah,
elevation
exactly.
profile, right? You never
Yeah,
intersect. Yeah.
yeah. You
Okay.
intersect right at the starting point. That's when you
Oh wow.
intersect.
Okay. Yeah. All
So you
right.
leave the town from one side and you come from the other side of the
Okay.
town. And this last section, if you see from Robinson, in the last part, you have a steep descent into valley, and there is this flat section, which is the
So
road section. So it's like
in the
four
section
miles.
between Onister Pass to Keswick, were you by yourself or you had pacers there?
No, so it's very interesting. So when I descended into Honister, I told my pacers that, hey, go ahead and tell the crew that I will not be stopping, because I started having ITB issues it started like between I think middle of leg three, somewhere after Bow fell. And it grew and grew and grew. And by the time I descended into Honister, whenever I was descending, it was very, very painful. So
Wow.
I said that, hey, I need to go straight away. So I didn't stop. And I met another friend of mine. He was the first guy whom I became friends with. He was not supposed to come. He's a local Kazakhian guy, born and brought up over here. He's a masseuse. That's the guy whom I go to get massages and stuff like that. Beautiful person, and he came with his partner and his dog. Took time out of his busy life just to be there with me, and I got so emotional seeing him at Honister. And
Wow.
he's one of the legends of fell running. Everyone knows him. So he became him and Donnie Clark, and then Alan, my another pacer, and then my leg three pacer also joined. So it was like 4 or 5 people who were there on leg five from Honister to Keswick. And it was beautiful at Robinson, which was like the last peak. I was going towards that peak, and all of a sudden it became very misty, and it was misty, darkish kind of thing. And all of a sudden, what happened was, it felt as if the universe has opened a window in the cloud, and this broken what's the broken specter is the English word
Uh-huh.
for that
Okay.
phenomena, right? You feel that light is coming down and
Oh, yeah,
stuff
Yeah.
like
yeah.
that.
Mhm.
And it was so amazing.
Oh.
And somewhere, on leg four, when I was feeling really crap, I tried to connect to my mom to just come out of it. And Robinson was the point when I felt her going away. And I felt so emotional, and I cried a lot as well over there. And we all cried, because it was such a wonderful day as friends we spent in the fells. And that's how we descended into the Keswick Valley. And the last 4 miles is a road section, so you can run pretty fast over there.
Mhm.
Okay.
That's good.
So in the whole thing, how critical is it for to recon the course?
I think it's
As in, like,
absolutely critical. You
yeah,
cannot you cannot do
can
off-sighting
someone
actually.
show up with your GPX and follow the whole thing?
You can, but I think you will struggle because GPX on one day could be good if the terrain is good, but on the another day, the same GPX could not be good
Yeah.
because the terrain has changed massively, because it's like very boggy, or there are like a lot of clouds and you are not able to find out the features. If you have gone just 5 or 10 meters here and there, you are like doubting your choices because you don't know where you are. So in many cases, you have to sort of like recognize the features sort of things, that, okay, this rock looks like that, and I have to take like right from here and or curve from there and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So recon
So
becomes very, very,
most people attempting it, do you think they end up reconning it over several days and
they
then
and
give it a shot?
yes, and the ethos also says that the ultimate responsibility of navigation is runners, right?
Sure.
So it is your decision what line you take. I was grateful that I had, guys who were navigating for me, but ultimately it is runner's responsibility to to make sure that whatever route you are taking, you are confident about it. So I think recon is very, very important. Um, Not just because you wanted to know how the line goes and stuff like that, but also to train yourself. These are very rough mountains. If your body is not used to handling, these rough mountains, then it is very difficult unless you are a Killian. Even Killian, when he came, he went on some of these legs to do some recce. And Jack Kunzel did proper fell running style, so he lived here for a month.
Oh,
He
wow.
did he did marshalling in the fell races. He went out with Keswick AC to their social runs and stuff. He ran the Bob Graham and Kazakh Athletic Club's West, actually. People love him because he did proper style, actually.
Yeah. I
Right.
saw you did a lunar round as well. Is it a subset of
Yeah.
it, or what is that?
No, so it's a thing actually, in UK running culture that people create rounds. So there's a T round, which is like a baby or half version of Bob Graham round. So some of these peaks are there
Okay.
in T round, and the shorter, even shorter version of T round is espresso round,
Oh, wow.
where there
Okay.
are like where there are like 3 or 4 peaks only. So for someone who wants to aim for, say, for example, Bob Graham round, it is advised that you should do like T round or espresso round just to see how the terrain is like. And one
Yeah.
of the round which is local to my village, it starts in Ambleside, finishes in Ambleside, is lunar round.
Okay.
And the basic idea is basically you start from Climber Shop. There's a Climber Shop over here in Ambleside. You start from that gate after the sun is set, and you have to finish before the sun rises, and that's why the lunar round. Right? And there are like I think 9 or 10 peaks, and the round is about probably a marathon long, with 4,500 meters of vert or something. So yeah, there are these sort of like rounds where you can just test yourself and be more accustomed to these mountains, and yeah, sort of like practice a little bit.
Yeah. You have some good motivation to visit you.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. More than welcome, you know. Yeah, you will have a mattress over here where you can crash. You will be warm. You will be fed some good food, and I'll
You
I'll
need
show
to
you
show
around.
your fell running community spirit. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and some of the races are like really funny. So there's a guy who organizes a race in a village, and the race is I think a very short and sharp one, like few miles long. And the way he gives prizes is whatever is spare in this house, in his house, right? So one day I think I heard that he gave toilet papers. There were like a lot of toilet papers he got from someone, so he gave toilet papers to the winners. And then one day it's a very
Hilarious.
famous yeah, it's a very famous story. One day he gave like the person who came first, he gave him 1 beer, and then the person who came second, he gave him 2 beers, and the person who came third, he gave him 3 beers. So he's a very funny guy, you know. And the races are like very low key, like few odd people to like few hundreds only, like
Uh-huh.
100 max, right?
Okay.
and you just pay from £5 to £15. That's the maximum you pay for these races, and you get in the end you get a piece of cake, a nice tea, or like few bars here and there. So very low key kind of
Wow,
affairs, you know.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's
Amazing.
nice.
Amazing.
always ends in a
Uh,
pub where you get like
yeah.
beers, you drink
It
beers,
has.
get wasted.
Yeah. It's funny. A few years back, one of our friend, right, Rajiv has run GUCR many times, and I mean Grand Union Canal Race.
Yeah,
And one of the he had sent me a description of his course, and man, every canal cross section there is a pub out there, pretty much. I'm like, man,
yeah,
every landmark is pretty much any pub. Take a right turn at this pub.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's very easy to hydrate, whatever way you
Hydrate,
want to
yeah.
hydrate.
Definitely, definitely. The least you can have is like chips and beers, you know, and that goes really well for ultra runners.
Yeah, yeah, amazing.
Yeah, all right.
Um,
So Anil and Jeep, we are beyond the 2 hour mark, and I think it was a great conversation. I want to continue further, but obviously it's very late for you as well, Jeep. So, thanks for talking to us, and this had been wonderful. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
thank you very much. I mean, you guys,
congratulations, man. This is all of these are epic adventure in a short time. It is so much more to talk. Yeah, thanks for taking time.
And you
A
know
oh,
lot of
what?
thank you.
information, and we'll try to hook up different pointers. If you have a blog or something around all these runs, we'll try to connect it. I know a video is coming on the Bob Graham too at
Yeah.
some point. We'll
Yeah,
post
so
it along with.
yeah. So there's a really nice couple, Ali Green and Matt Green. They run Summit Fever Media Limited.
Mhm.
This is one of the leading outdoor production house locally over here. So when they sort of like become friends, and I told them that this is why I want to do Bob, etc., etc. So Matt said, "Oh, I really want to make a movie on this." So the movie is gonna be about these fells, the community, the local people, and how it has helped me to heal in over these years, and what it means to me running wise. So they did some shooting on the Bob when I did the attempt,
Okay.
and it is continuing, will continue through the winters, and I think they are looking to release the movie in spring 2024.
Amazing.
Which is really great because I think our sport needs these kind of stories
Absolutely.
because representation really, really matters.
Yeah,
And
totally.
it is one of the things which are very close to my heart, that we need to tell to the world that we are out there and we can do hard things. Runners like Kai, etc., they are working so hard to bring Indians on the forefront of the trail running community. So content like this needs to be produced. So I'm so grateful that that guy has taken sort of like the first step, and I'm just trying to help him as best as possible.
No, absolutely.
Phenomenal. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Looking forward for that, James. So we are looking forward. The whole community is looking forward to watch the movie. So thank you. And also, we
Thank
learned
you,
a
sir.
great deal about the culture, running culture there where you are over there. It's great learning about, the UK running culture in general. And of course, the culture of Spartathlon, everything, great sharing of information from you. Thank you.
Good
Yeah,
luck to you
you
if you
need
ever
to
decide.
visit this side some point, plan a race. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Someday it will happen for sure. It's funny that Kaushik and I, we did San Francisco half together in the same year. It's so funny.
Oh wow.
But
Oh, did you
obviously we
do
didn't
that
know each
year?
other.
I recall
But
2019,
no, it was not 2019. I think it was before that.
2018.
2018,
2016.
I guess. No,
I
2018.
think it's
Yeah.
2019. That's the year I got to know him, I think. He was doing a double SF, out and back, something like that.
No, I think it was before that, probably.
Okay.
Okay.
Maybe 2017 or 2018, probably. But yeah, he was there. It was SF's 40th, I guess.
Okay.
So whenever that year was. Yeah, but someday it will happen for sure, and I will rely on you guys to do some crewing and stuff like that. So it
Yeah,
will be good fun.
Yeah,
absolutely. All
definitely.
right. Looking
Definitely.
forward for that. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay.
guys.
Yep.
So
Thank
much
you.
fun.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Jeev. Yeah.
Cheers.
Happy
Bye bye.
weekend.